All right, here we go. So folks, if you're on this call, it means you know what StifleR is. It's a very complex product, and I'm glad that you want to know more about it. And you got two geniuses who are going to tell you even more about it, because as much as you think you know, they know more. These guys know it inside and out, play with it every single day. And I got the luckiest job in the world because I get to work with these guys and I get to see their insights into how well they can push this product beyond its limits, automate it, and do more with less, that kind of thing. I will make sure that your questions are going to be asked and answered. We will leave some time at the end for Q&A, but if you have something that's holding you back from understanding what's going on before we move forward, let us know, and we'll make sure that that answer is given to you quickly so you can move on and stay along with the discussion. And with that, which of you two would like to kick it off?
Right, thank you, sir. Matthias, do you want to take the lead? You are speaking on mute, sir.
Oops, sorry, rookie mistake. Thanks. Yes, my name is Matthias Benninge. I'm living in the not so cold actually today, but dark Sweden at least. So I work with all our products, and I've been here for about 3 years. Background in endpoint management, Intune, config manager. Yeah, this is what's called SMS. So that's how old I am. But yeah, that's a short version. I've been working with Johan since that time. I think I went to your first BDD course many moons ago. So over to you, Johan.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, my name is Johan Arvidmark. A very similar background to Matthias. Been working in the imaging and systems management space for, well, I usually say I've been an IT guy since I was 10, but I didn't start work professionally until I was 16 in high school. I helped a computer company build computers, deploy them, and I fell in love with automation at that time. It was batch file then, so it wasn't really much of automation, but it was automation. I liked it, and I kind of been doing that since. I've known the founders of TwoPoint for a very long time, and I've been working with the company since in different shapes and forms since 2018. So coming up on year number 7 now. Remarkable group of clever people. It's a pleasure being here. And like Brian mentioned, we do love questions. If you have any, let us know. We will save some time extra for them in the end. But if they come to mind, I believe everyone has access to the chat here in the not Zoom call, Teams call. So put them in there if that works. So yeah, with that, back to you, Matthias.
Yes, thank you. So why are we here today? So we're going to talk about StifleR, of course. What's this? Yeah. So we're going to go through a couple of different methods you can use with StifleR, our different APIs. We're going to show you a lot of demos. So hopefully we're going to keep the slides to a minimum for this session and keep the demos and script going. I'm going to show you some general tips and tricks, how to manage it by using scripts instead of clicking in the dashboard. Some of us loves that scripting instead of clicking, but yeah, that's a occupational hazard, or what do you say? Yeah. And I see a lot of friendly faces there that who probably know who we are, but I saw a couple of new faces as well. So like, who is TwoPoint? With TwoPoint was founded 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago, by Andreas Hammarskjöld, as he's on the call today, and also Phil Wilcock from England. And they have a long background as well in the system management and endpoint management space and peering and branch cache. So that's what they started with. The whole bandwidth management and throttling, and the StifleR product was the first product. And now we actually have a few more in our toolkit. So we have not only StifleR, we have the DeployR. You probably heard a lot of talk about that. It went GA just last week, so super excited about that. And we have the whole recover part and the iPixie part. But today we're going to focus on StifleR and the scripting and management of that. So, anything I forgot, John?
That was pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, good. Let me switch to the next one. And let's start by a demo, so you don't fall asleep immediately. So what is StifleR for you guys that haven't seen it? So it's our tool for managing networks, making sure the peering is optimal on your networks, and that we throttle any traffic where we can't peer. We make sure it's being throttled. Here we actually have a live view. So the way StifleR works is that we have a client on the endpoints, and we have a server. So all the clients are connected to the server at all times, which make what do you say, we can see these live views. Since all the clients report back at all time, we actually get some really decent and super nice dashboards and views. So in this example, I just started a couple of downloads on one of the networks I had before the presentation started. So here we can actually see live that we're doing some different downloads. So here we have both downloads from Config Manager and from Intune. And you can see a lot of the traffic was peered on this network. So this is a 50 megabit link network. And even if it was limited, so we only allow 20 megabits in this case for the actual background downloads. But you can see the clients downloaded in over 250 megabits. And that was because they took the content from peers, not from the source itself. And the way we do this is basically we build your network in the tool, and we either do it automatically or you can script it in there, as we will show you a bit later. But if you don't have any good IPAM solution or any reliable network information you can use, the tool will build the network automatically for you. And the way we do that is we have something we call the network, which is basically a subnet, and then we group them together in networks. All the subnets that are physically in the same location, we group them together in a network group, we call it, and we make sure that network group has optimal peering, and then we apply templates to these network groups. So if you have different bandwidth scenarios, like you have a couple of 100 megabit links, you have a couple of gig links, or maybe even slower 10 megabit links, we make sure as the clients move around, they actually get the correct template and the correct settings based on where they are, and not based on a setting in a config manager or Active Directory Intune that is fixed on the device and really doesn't know if the device move around. So we base out all our settings on the network level. So once the clients move around the world, they will get the optimal setting for that network they are actually on. So if they're on home, VPN, or somewhere else, it really doesn't matter. We make sure they got the optimal settings for branch cache and DO and for bits and things like is related to the network bandwidth and throttling. And just to show you another thing here, we have a client. So in this device or in this dashboard, we can also manage the clients. So we have a lot of information about the clients. So you can see on what network it is. So this is a client that is actually online. So here up in the corner, you will see there's a green checkbox here. It means that it's online. If it was red, it would be offline. And if it's offline, we have not as much information. But if it's online, you will see all these settings, all the connection details and stuff like this. But if you don't like the dashboard, of course, you can also get this information from WMI or any of our APIs. So for example, if I run this little snippet here, you will see that oops, there you go.
Looks good to me in the bottom there.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes. Was confusing me. Yeah, so first I just dumped the whole connection. So you see there's a lot of information about the device here, the MAC address, all the different settings, how much cache is using, a lot of information. So the second line here was just a limited set. So we got the
Matthias,
name. Yep.
would you mind zooming in a little bit for the people in the cheap seats in the room? Awesome.
So here you can see when I run this, I get this things like the computer name, the connection ID, when it was connected, the IP address. Of course, we have all this different information that you can get and use. And then if we go back to the dashboard, this is actually the same thing as you see in the dashboard. So, but we'll go a bit more into the scripting parts as well. Just a super simple example here. So let's go back to the demo. So I'll hand over to you, Johan, here.
Don't mind if I steal your screen for a little bit. I promise you will get it back later. But as far as scripting capabilities goes in the StifleR platform, there are primarily 3 different scripting capabilities or stores that we work with. It's pure WMI, has been part of the 2-point StifleR product since its very first releases back in, well, way back, and it's still available in the product. The API that Matthias talked about earlier, that is usually something we use RESTful API calls to talk to or to work with. And for those of you that have seen it, we have also an optional SQL history feature that can be enabled in the product. And when you work with that one, this is just pure regular traditional SQL calls or SQL scripting, transact SQL when you work with that one. But we will show you a couple of examples of these throughout the session. But these are the platforms that allows you to interact and automate stuff that is in StifleR. Everything from just viewing information, but also changing information, like creating networks, removing networks, changing their settings, importing, exporting templates, pretty much everything you can do in the console, and often more you can do behind the scenes, because often you will find additional functionality that can be invoked through scripting that is not available in, at least not yet, in the dashboard. Now, starting off easy, and that would be starting off with WMI a little bit. The way we interact with it mostly is through PowerShell. It's not the only scripting language or programming language you can use. I've seen folks using Python for it. You can develop your own basically compiled applications in C# or .NET or whatever have you. But from an engineering point of view, from a sysadmin point of view, PowerShell is what you're going to use primarily when scripting against the platform. Now, if you are new into PowerShell, there are 2 versions of PowerShell out there. It's Windows PowerShell that is built into Windows, and it's PowerShell 7 and all those different 7 versions that is cross-platform, available in multiple architectures, and it's typically a faster version to work with. And PowerShell 7 in general is the version that gets bug fixes, that gets new features. The version of PowerShell that is built into Windows is more in a maintenance mode at this point. It has to be a small miracle for that version to get an update of sort, and usually that would be a security fix or something. But that means that when you interact with it through PowerShell, you have different options. What I recommend that you do, or what we recommend that you do, is that you focus to work with these different commandlets when working with it. Why? Because they work in both versions of PowerShell. If you use the older methods or commandlets, they will only work in Windows PowerShell. So highly recommended to work with commandlets that you can leverage in both versions of PowerShell. Simplifies the things a little bit as you go forward and move on with your automation repositories and scripting libraries and whatnot. Now, StifleR, as Matthias mentioned, has a lot of information about connections, about clients, about networks, and many more things. and that data can be accessed through WMI. But sometimes you want to have inspiration. So there are tools that can help you to basically poke around and see what's going on, what's available in the platform. And even some deprecated tools, I would not recommend using WMIC today. It's still available in older versions of Windows, but as you probably have seen in the newer version of Windows 11, that is now gone, which causes other problems not related to StifleR, but you may find application installers today or scripts that you might have that still invokes it, and they will downright fail if it doesn't exist. So I wouldn't work with that one anything at this time. I will focus on these other tools, and I'll say demo time is a better option here. So starting off easy, this is my little StifleR platform here. Proud to say, for probably the first time in living memory, I happen to be on a version newer than Matthias is. This was 2547 and I'm on build 49 here. So this is fresh off the presses, December 2nd build. I think it might have been Niehaus that compiled this one, but I borrowed it last night, and here we are. Anyway, in this environment, I also have a couple of clients. So if I would go in and, for example, search for clients, I have a couple of here, but I'm not interested so much in the red ones. I'm going to go ahead and search for just the online ones. And you can see here I have now 8 clients. And when I click one of these clients, I have a lot of information about that machine and a bunch of other stuff, of course. Now, if I would open up good old Web and Test, this is a tool that has been around since about Windows 2000. Might have been NT4 thinking of it. A very long time, a good couple of decades, but it still works. This is a tool that you can use to connect to a namespace, and the namespace for StifleR is, well, it's named StifleR. We have another one that we will talk about later, but this is like the original WMI namespace that you connect to right here. And once I have a connection, I can start to enumerate all the classes in it, instances, or I can say, hey, I just want to run a query. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a select star from connections, which is one of the classes that not very surprisingly has information about our connections. So if I run that, I will see all my 8 different instances here. And when I click one of these instances and start to scroll down, this is where I again can see the same type of information as I had in the dashboard, IP address and network, and all of that good stuff. Now, I don't use this tool much, but it's available, it works, and there are scenarios where you might be interested on using it. But for the most part, when exploring, I'm using a tool called WMI Explorer. This tool has been around for also a long time. It's written by a gentleman over at Microsoft. So you can download it from GitHub, and I can actually go ahead and snatch that link real quick for you and put it in the chat so you have it.
Oh, Gary already did it. Too slow.
Dang, he is fast. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. It's good to see the good part of our engineering team joining in the chat here and in the call. So I'll skip that one. But again, here I have the same tool connecting to my server, and here is that same namespace I showed you before. So if I double click that one, I will see the different classes. If I double click the connections class, I will see my instances. And if I click an instance, again, this is where I have that particular live connection, the IP address and network, and all the other good information. And what I like about this is that often when you start to poke around in these different classes, you may find stuff that you don't see in the dashboard, but when you see them here, like, oh, wait a minute, if I create a query and ask for this, I can be able to do this in my environment. Worth mentioning also that we'll come back to this, but a lot of these classes has one or more methods. These are more ready-made functions that you can leverage to get information from a class. Like if I want to get the delivery optimization configuration, I can go ahead and launch that one. If I play around with a lab and I'm trying to figure out, okay, does everything work the way I want it to do? How are my metrics doing? Does my configuration match what I want to test? And you can go ahead and reset this data. So there are methods that you can call to basically zero out the network and say, all right, start fresh, and you can play around with some different settings. And we'll come back to that, but when working with scripting, something that we highly recommend, get a lab going. It doesn't have to be a big fancy environment. It can be just a couple of VMs, maybe a virtual router or something like that. But when working with PowerShell and working with automation, as long as you're reading stuff, you're safe. You cannot destroy the product by just reading information. But if you write the PowerShell script to say, hey, get every single network and delete them, PowerShell will do that for you. So might not be the best way to test every single script in production first, but rather having a smaller lab environment where you can play around with it. But going back to the automation here at hand, if I go over to my script that I have here, I have a very similar thing going on, where I'm connecting to a namespace, StifleR. I have a class name, connections. And in this case, I want to see, okay, what versions do I have? So I put in a filter for versions. So I can ask for every connection that happens to be on version 3. So, all right, I can do the same thing if I want to show a summary. So here you can see I have my 8 different counts of version 3 clients. And if I want to see some details about them, I can go ahead and run this one here. And I have details about those clients through PowerShell. In general, when you work with, what happened there with Zoom? In general, when you work with PowerShell and WMI, again, use these newer commandlets. And when you have a chance, use filter. Why? Why should you use filter instead of a query? Filters are typically much faster. They put less load on the server. They are basically filtered on the server in many cases, and it eludes memory overhead and other fun things. But again, if you have a smaller lab environment, no problem. I can run the same thing here. So instead of doing connections and filter, I can do a query. And this language is called WQL, WMI query language. It looks very much like SQL or Transact SQL, but it's a little bit different. I can only think of a few reasons where you really want to use a query. And that is if you want to join data from different classes together, which I haven't found a way to do with filter. But you can do that with a query. But the result is the same. I run that one and I have my information. So this is just a short example on how we can use different tools to explain or show what's available in the product. You'll learn a lot about the product by just poking around and look at the data here that we have. So this is an interface for the StifleR databases. And as you probably have seen behind the scenes, we have a lot of different eCenter databases. Don't edit them or view them directly. They were never intended to. This is what our product uses to store information, but we use WMI and the API to interact with it. And of course, to use the dashboard to interact with it. And the service that the client talks to, it will store information in those databases. And the final thing, I just wanted to show it because I mentioned it earlier, the SQL scripting optional feature, the SQL history optional feature, allow you to see every single download that have ever happened on your network. So if I run this little Transact SQL query here, it will show me in my little lab here about 13,000 or 12,000 downloads the last couple of months. But this is something I found maybe a bit of a nerd, but I really like to see what's going on the clients to start to see trends. Okay, who is doing what, and how am I doing in terms of peering efficiency for stuff that is being downloaded? Because you will find content out there that is great for peering, and you will find content that is not great for peering. And this is one way to see that. And you can summarize that per network and whatnot, but it's a really handy little database to add in. So that was my little rant on that. Now, Matthias, back to you.
Thank you. Let me take over the screen here. Share. Catch up. Yes. So going back to StifleR then. So what Johan showed was the WMI provider. So that's what we currently was using in 2.10, and it's still there in the new version 3.0. And as you said there, there's root and StifleR. That's the namespace we're using. These providers are not something that the product itself is using. So these are built only for consuming for the end users. So they're built only for you to script against. So whatever in there, it's meant to be stable and carrier across version. Of course, when we upgrade from 2.10 to 3.0, there are some changes since we rebuilt a lot of stuff in the background. We also had to rebuild a few of these. So if you've done any scripting today, make sure you test them when you move to 3.0 and make sure they work. Most stuff should work, but I know especially around the networking parts, we did a whole lot of a restructure around that and added new functions. So if you're doing anything around networks, make sure what you're doing is still working in 3.0. But these methods are supposed to be stable. And the other new, or it's been in 2.10 as well, but it's not been so accessible, is a REST API that we have in the background. So what's a REST API? I had to make an AI picture, of course, for every presentation, mostly because I love the name. So Gemini's new image creator was called Nano Banana Pro. Because that makes you want to use it. They got even better names than us, man. So a REST API is HTTP endpoint, so it's something running on a web server, IIS, or something in the background. And when you make these HTTPS requests to them, so from the client, you make a HTTP request to a specific path, and then you can do different methods. So you can do a get method, for example, if you just want to read. You can delete, or you can post if you want to create something, or put or patch if you want to update an already existing. So if you, and usually, or I would say the most common way to interact with this is through JSON. So either if you want to send or create some data, you send in a JSON file, and then you will get a JSON response from the server. There are some other options as well, but that's the most common and the one the StifleR API is using. So in StifleR, we have one REST API, but we have two different paths, So we have one that the dashboard is using, and we have another one that's called WMI API. So and those are basically the same as the one you get from the WMI, but there's really no dependency on WMI. We just call them that to differentiate them from the other ones. So the web APIs calls are subject to change. Those are the ones we use in the dashboard. There are some things that are available only in the web API right now. But if you want to script against the REST API, I would suggest starting using the WMI API if there is one. If there isn't, and there is something you really like in the web API, let us know and we can add it to the WMI API. Otherwise, if you do script against the web API, it might change over time. So just be aware of that. And the reason we have this web API is that it works on .NET Core. So if we go back to the other WMI provider, that it only works on .NET Framework. And at a later point, we want to move StifleR, so it's built entirely on .NET Core. And right now, this WMI provider is the main reason we cannot do that. And that's also a reason when you do download the new installers for 3.0, you will see there is a WMI agent, which basically is a copy of the root StifleR. It's going to, if you install that one, it's totally optional and doesn't add any really new functionality compared to the built-in one. But it's going to is called StifleR Beta, I think it was called, and so if you want to test and make sure that the functionality is the same, you can do that and give us feedback on that. It's very, but it's not required for the installation, so be aware of that one. And our progress going forward is that at one point of time, we're going to remove it from the StifleR. And for those that still want to do scripting, we're going to provide this separate WMI agent that you can install if you're running on Windows, or it can even be installed on a separate Windows server if you in the future then install StifleR on a Docker container or on some platform that doesn't have the Windows as a base. And let me show you just here how this looks in the. So if I go back to the dashboard here, and we have this. So when you build a REST API, one common thing is to include like a Swagger UI, and that's basically a documentation over your REST APIs. So if I go here to this URL here, so you have this if you have installed StifleR, it's there by default. So if you just browse to this URL, you get all these methods. So here you see some of them are actually called something like WMI in the end. So that's means it's a WMI. So if I click this one, you will see the path here starts with WMI API. And if I do another one here instead, you will see it's just called API. So these WMI APIs is basically the same as the ones Johan showed you in the WMI. It's just another way to access them. So these are the stable ones, but this is the same as the Johan's WMI Explorer. You can use this UI to click on these and see, get information how they are supposed to be used, what the responses will be. If we find one like a client here, I think you can try it out, and you'll see, okay, this, if you do this on a client, it will return all. So this will return all your clients in your environment. So there will be an array of responses in here. Yeah, so, but we'll come back to this in a little bit later in some more demos. And when we build stuff, the way we do it is of course we start in the code. That's kind of goes without saying. And then we implement it in the web API, the functionality. And then we try to put them, if it's something we think you as an end user will consume, we put it in the WMI or WMI API. And then lastly, we put something in the dashboard. So there are a lot of functions, like Johan showed you, that is there, and properties that is there in the background, but we don't show them in the dashboard. So of course we have everything in the code, and then we try to put them in the WMI, because a lot of things doesn't make sense to have a dashboard. A lot of bulk operations, for example, there's no point in showing them in the dashboard because that's not how you use it then when you click around. So try to use scripting for that. And then if there's something that makes sense to put in the dashboard, we put it in there as well. And we also have kind of PowerShell scripts that come into play when you generate, or when a new client comes in and it says, okay, I'm on a network that doesn't exist. Like the normal flow is that it will send the information about the network to the server, and the server will see, okay, does this network fit together with any already existing network, or do I need to create this from scratch? But here we actually have a PowerShell script that can go in between, and you can add automation. So if you have an IPAM system or some other system that has information about a network, you can intercept this call and you can make it do stuff based on the information you already have in your system. I think, Johan, you will be showing a bit about this now.
Sure. All right. Let me add and borrow the screen really quick. You see this okay?
Yes.
All right. So before diving into that demo, I just wanted to show you a method that I mentioned earlier, but I didn't demo. You can see here in one of my networks, the Chicago network, ending on 24.0 here, you can see I have some history data. And if you play around and testing different templates, different configurations, you might be interested in simply resetting that so you can try again with a different setting and see if that makes a difference in your environment or in your lab, whatever you're playing around with. So like the other scenarios, this is just a small little snippet of PowerShell, selecting a given network, in this case using a query. And here I'm using that method to just reset counters for that network only. So if I go ahead and run that one and just hit F8 to run it, go back to the dashboard, refresh the page, and this is the information here that we are looking at. So if I refresh that one, you will see that that history information is now gone, and I can start over my testing. This is something we have use heavily during proof of concept, just to make sure that all the different test cases are being assigned for and work as expected. So I just wanted to show it there. Now, StifleR as a product has tons of features to automatically detect your networks, group them together, figure things out, and there is a lot of logic built into that. But we do have customers that already have that information available somewhere else. One customer worked with a retail company here in the US. They actually used a simple Excel spreadsheet as their source of truth for all networks they were using, because they used that same spreadsheet to make sure that all the config manager boundaries were configured correctly. Another customer I worked with over in Europe for a good couple of years, they had an IPAM database and Infoblox platform which their network team maintained, but that one had an API, so you can ask that platform, okay, what networks do you actually have? So if you have that information elsewhere, you can use PowerShell to script in that setup into StifleR and say, hey, this is what I want to use. This is what I have. This is what I want you to work with. So it could be as simple as just having a CSV file. So if I open up a something larger CSV file, the one that I use that I reset my lab every single time, this is just a comma separated file where I have all my locations, my networks, what IP address and ranges or network subnets I want to work with in some sort of database. I wouldn't call it CSV file a database, but it is a source of information that I want to use. And then I can go over to PowerShell. And just to show you before running the script, if I go over to my networks here, there is 17 networks. You can see it down here. And if I go back to PowerShell, head over to my lab setup script, I'm going to specify that path. That's where I keep my scripts. And then this one here, this line, will simply run a PowerShell script that will import that CSV file. And now PowerShell created a location, a network group, a network for me. And this could have been 1, it could be 500. So if I go back to the dashboard and refresh this view here, we should now see 18 networks instead of 17. And the one that was created was in the demo VPN network here. So in the same way, I would have a demo VPN network group, and I would have a demo VPN location. And speaking of VPN, that is typically one of the networks that you do want to pre-create in StifleR, because they are often very specific. Even larger organizations, I mean, some of the customers I work with have a StifleR server dealing with hundreds of thousands of clients at the same time. And even such a large environment, they may have 20 VPN networks out of like 20,000 networks. So VPN is typically an exception where you like to pre-create them in the platform. But again, as I said, we have customers who really have that information elsewhere, and they want to use what they already know about, what they have tested, and this is how you do it. And just one more thing, you might notice that if you work in really large environments, and again, we are talking about the 6-digit numbers of clients here, WMI calls may need some extra time. So you can say that, all right, this quite complex query, allow it to run a little bit longer than usual. But for the most part, you never have to worry about that, especially when using filters. You get replies very quickly from the platform. So that was my demo on generating networks there.
Yes. Did you have any more WMI, or do you want me to take over and show some?
Oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. Let me share my screen here again.
And we will share these examples, by the way. We'll come to that later.
Yeah, so let's go back. Let me first show you. So here I'm going to use a, let's see, where you go, there. I'll use 2 different APIs for the same thing. You see I have a WMI and I have the normal, let's call it web API. And in the first case, it's called like client get agent ID, and the second one is client ID. So the paths can differ a little bit, but you need to go into this Swagger UI again. Let's go to where I had the clients. If you're not sure about the actual syntax, you can go in, click on this client, and yeah, here. Let's see, client agent ID. Yeah, so this is what it expects. It needs a path, client agent ID, and then the actual agent ID, which in this case then is a GUID for the device itself. And how do I figure this device ID out? Yes, either you use the dashboard. So if you go to the dashboard itself, you will see on the client here, you will see an agent ID in the information, but you will also see it in the URL of when you browse to a client. So up here, you will actually see the client. And another thing you can do is, I'm not sure if you ever used the Graph API from Microsoft, or the Graph X-Ray is a really good tool if you're using Microsoft's portals. But the problem with those are they are hard coded to Microsoft, So I made a copy of them and changed so you can actually add your own URL in there. So it can capture any StifleR or any page that does API calls at all. To be honest, doesn't have to be StifleR. But if I refresh this page here, you will see on the right side, it will actually show you all the API calls it did in the backend. And then
Zoom or else.
Sorry?
Zoom in or else.
Yes, I was just going to find what I want to show first. I zoom in the correct. Yes, here you see it. So let me zoom in on that one. So here we then find this a call that was made by the dashboard. And here we can then see the syntax and we can see the response that you got from it. So let's see if we can replicate this in the code then. So if I then run this code here, up here, so I'm going to use invoke web request in PowerShell, have the URL, I'm going to use the method get, and then use basic parsing because I don't have Edge maybe on this device, and default credentials is going to use the credentials I'm logged in with and send that to the endpoint. If I want to use some other credentials, I need to define those and send them with the web request. So if I run this, it will see once again, I get a long list of all the properties here. It's actually 31 properties that is returned here. Oops. And then I can do the same, but using the WMI API instead. So we just run the same. And you see once again, it's returning 31 properties. But to be careful here, if I compare those two objects, they are actually not returning the same properties. So the web API and the WMI API differ a little bit in what they are returning. So we can see the WMI API returns these, but those are missing from the web API, and then we have these down here that is returned by the WMI or the web API, but not the WMI API. So there can be some differences when using the different endpoints. So be aware of that. If something is missing in one of them, it might be worth checking the other one. And if there's something you really need in the WMI API, let us know and we can add it in there. But if you don't know this URL or this GUID, and you only have the machine name, you can of course search for it as well. So if we do that instead, so in this scenario, I have one of my clients in here, and I then use this path. So I use the search client by value and then part or the complete name. So if I run this, it will actually return one match, and it will be my device. So let me, but then if I then instead just specify partial bits of my name, you'll see it actually returned 4 matches here. So if I just run this part here, yeah, it will see all my devices here. And in this, I then got the ID, which is the agent ID, and the parent ID in this case is the network it was on. You will see if it was online or offline. So one of the devices was offline, and if it was missing, it was online or status true. So these are pretty simple, but then comes if you want to create something, then we get a little bit more complicated. So if we're doing the same here that Johan did with the WMI, we need to use the post method instead. So if we go back to one second there, the Swagger UI, let's find our location. Where's my network. And you can see here, where's my location? Yeah, here, sorry. We'll zoom in here. I have this info, whoops. I need to go, of course, and zoom it with you on. So you have one method that's called get and one method that is called post. So post means create in this scenario. So what does this method expect? So then if you go to the Swagger page, you will see an example value in here. So this wants JSON, and you need the name and the description. You can add more, but these are the ones that are required. But if you don't know, like if it's hard to read this, you can also go here, use the StifleR X-ray or something like this. Go to locations, you add a new, and we can do dashboard test, and then we'll hear the session here. Click OK, and then you will actually see I created a post request here. So here you will see what endpoint it was using and what the request was. So if it's hard to find in the Swagger thing, then you can use this way instead. So go back to this one. So let's create a, first we need a header, and the header is telling the REST API what you're going to send and what you want back. So I'm going to send a JSON, and I want a JSON back. And you have the URL, and let's send this. Whoops. Details code unknown. Sorry. Location. JSON. Okay, it's better if you spell correctly. Yes. This time it worked, and if I see if I can do this properly and look at the response, you will see that we got a 200. That's okay, and we will also have the content here, which actually is the location that we created that gets sent back as an object. So if we go to the dashboard, we will now have 2 new networks in here. We will have one called dashboard test that I created in the dashboard, and we will have one I created in the with the scripts. So if we then want to continue on this way, we can create a network group the same way. And you'll see I used the input from the location. So I converted this back to JSON and took the ID of that property and inserted that into a network group. So I attached a network group into the location, and then let's continue and do the actual network as well. So if we then go back to the dashboard, refresh this one, we'll see now that the test network has, we will have the test, we created a network group, and we then added a network in that network group. So we built them all. And then if we want to add a network by using the WMI, so all these methods that we're using the normal web API. So if I want to use the same using the WMI method instead, it will look something like this. And so this is a way in PowerShell to build a hash table, but since the REST method doesn't understand these, you need to convert it to a JSON. So if I if I run this one and just show it how it looks, it will actually create something like, it will look like this down here. And if I try to send this to the REST API, we'll just go bananas and say, nope, I don't want that. So what we need to do is actually convert it into JSON first. So if you use this convert to JSON script, and you will see, yes, now it looks like a JSON in here and something the REST API will accept. So if I run this, and once again, and here you will also see, so when I ran the first that was going against the web API, it returned the whole network. So when I was using this method here, it was returning the full object. But when I ran the WMI method, it only returned the actual GUID of the network. So even there, it differs a little bit. So if you need the whole network when you're doing the WMI things, let us know, or use the API, the normal web API for now. So if we then go back to the dashboard, you'll see here now. Let's refresh again. Expand the test. Yes. Now there's 2 networks in here. One using the web API and one using the WMI API. So if we then want to change something on one of them, so now we created then one thing I forgot to mention is, so when you're using PowerShell, for some reason, if you have a when you're posting something and the REST API is expecting an array of stuff, it will not work if you pipe it to convert JSON. So if I do this one, you'll see what I mean. So when I first created this one, you will see I have a nested. So I have first I have defined an array here. That's by using an at and a, what's it called? This
Parentheses.
Yes, thank you. So that means an array, and then inside that array, I use the curly brackets, and the curly bracket is the hash table. So normally I would do something like I will have multiple. Since it's an array, then I can have I have a comma here, and I have multiple different things I want to change or different. But in this case, if I only have one, it will look like this after I run it to the pipeline. If I then instead do this, so I send it as an object to the convert JSON, we will see that now we got these brackets here. And these are super important, because without these, the REST API will not accept it. So in the first case, I just got this single object without those brackets. So be careful. If the REST API is expecting an array, don't use a pipe. But if I then go
Matthias, we're coming up at the top of the hour here.
Yeah,
We've got to be respectful of people's time.
Yes.
Might be a good time to just ask if we have any questions, or if you have something to wrap up here kind of quickly.
Yes. Another one, post patch, and then delete. Let me delete everything here. And then we're done with the demo. So, no. What did I do? It's running. Oh, there we go. Yes. Another thing, we'll leave these demos so if we don't have to go through them. Another thing you can do here is run PowerShell commands actually on a remote device. Since we're running out of time, I will not show it, but we'll leave these scripts in there so you can try it out. So this is actually running a PowerShell script on a remote device, and it will just return the get computer info in my example here. Another thing that you can do that we use when troubleshooting stuff is you can use a client to ping or check a port on a remote device. So in this case, I'm checking my deployR server if the port is open from this device to the deployR server. And if I run this, it will just return a time to live. If it's returning -2, it didn't work or it was closed. If it was, so this, now it's turned off here. If we would return a positive value like 3.6 or something, then you will know it's working. So you can also use this one. Yes, so I think that was kind of everything we wanted to show. Time goes quick when you're scripting. Like someone wrote in the comment, use a lab. If you're
absolutely, yes. Yeah. It's a great opportunity to play around and test. And as you guys probably know, StifleR is licensed by the endpoint. You can have one server, you can have 3. It doesn't really matter. But from Matthias and me, thank you so much for joining here, and thank you for the 2Point team to having us here and for organizing all of this. And we wish you a fantastic weekend when you get to it. Still one more day, but until then, thank you so much.
Yes, we'll stay here a bit if you have any questions, and we're going to post a link here for the examples. They are not there yet. I put the StifleR X-ray that I made is basically a copy of the graph X-ray, but if you want to use it, you need to install it in dev mode. So you need to download that zip, unzip it, and then manually install it. Ask me or Google. Happy to help you. Yeah, thank you, everyone. And I'm going to stay around for a bit if there's any questions.
That was awesome. That X-ray thing is pretty cool.
Yes.
Yes.
Can anyone unmute themselves, or do we have? Can we?
We can do that.
I've allowed everyone to mute themselves.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if there's anything, please ask away. Otherwise, thank you for coming.
Thanks for your time, everybody. And thanks for taking the time, Matthias.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Yeah. Hope you got some ideas at least what you can do.
Yeah, don't click. Real men don't
No.
click. It's too long to
What's the
read.
fun in that?